body snatchers. But I
Shut your
remember
flash
taking
off.
my mom down to Palm Springs and around the pool having her read the script because I thought my parents might not approve of it, but I determined that I was going to do it. And I remember telling Mom, I think it's going to be a hit, and I think it's going to be a hit. That was my impression.
I've never seen a scary movie or a horror movie, and when I read the script, I was raised in a really strict household, obviously, but when I read it, I was terrified. I thought it was the scariest thing, and so I don't know, that was my entree into the genre at all. Like, I hadn't really ever been scared cinematically, so I was very excited to I don't know, learn how to do that. It was very fun.
And Jennifer, I know this was, I think, your first movie, wasn't it?
It's credited as my first movie. Can't remember. No, wait, I remember.
But this is really early in your career, right?
Yeah, it's very, very early. Like the second one. And I can only say this. I could do a scary movie with a Freddy character. Because in my mind, if that guy's talking, I know I can think my way to an escape. But if it was Jason, and that fucker just came up, I would drop dead. So I would not be an actor. I don't know about the acting, but his dialogue makes it okay for me to behave. But Jason, I just died. So that's all I know.
I like that. I was doing that.
Oh, I can play anything. Can you? I can't.
Amanda and Ronnie, the first nightmare for me, just because I grew up in a single-parent home, really represented sort of that broken family dynamic that was really happening in the early 80s. Was that something that was sort of conscientious to both of you guys, since both your characters were involved in that kind of a dynamic?
Twofold. When I was so young, I don't know that I understood all the nuances that were in play in the film at the time that I see so clearly now. But I did like and found it to be a character I wanted to portray. Tina, I mean, she's in the film for such a short amount of time actually, but she's so damaged and broken, and I found like that her struggle to just find love, you know, with Rod, who's such a, they were both such losers, but like I found that to be really poignant. Her mom was just like kind of like a boozer, didn't care about her and stuff, and then it, you know, then of course, you know, Tina didn't have a very good role model, so she was all hoary, and everybody knows if you're a whore in a horror film, you have to die. But I found it, I just thought her character was really, I found it really interesting for me, like, to play. I thought she was, I think she's kind of sad, and I think in a way, even though Heather's the heroine, I feel like Tina has, like, I think she breaks our heart right at the beginning of the movie, and then, you know, it keeps the movie in our heart.
Beautifully said. You know, poor Marge, you know, had such a hard time because obviously she and her ex did not get along all that well. And yet Marge was struggling to do her very best. And I think that's what single parents do. They don't get along that well with their exes, or they'd still be with them. And they have to soldier on, and they love their children and do the very best they can. So I felt that Marge was a good parent. She was challenged, and she suffered, and she broke down, and she was restored at the end. She did have to die twice. That's hard on any mom.
Jennifer, we didn't really get a sense of your character other than when you were inside the facility. Did you guys have backstories sort of worked out for your family lives and all that kind of stuff?
I would say it would be the same kind of familiar, is it familiar? Family?
Familia.
Yeah, familiar. Yeah, at that time, you know, they just started to take parents' rights away or something. Parents started really divorcing, maybe something, whatever it is, I don't know. I'm sure I have parents who want.
What I think always makes Nightmare on Elm Street such a remarkable series is that it is the only series where the villain was played by the same actor. And I think that's absolutely one of the reasons that it has endured, that I don't think it would have had the same impact had Robert been replaced repeatedly and repeatedly. So I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about working alongside your villainous co-star and just sort of that impression, especially on the first one because the makeup was so audacious for that time.
Well, when we first started, well, there's a couple things. As most of you know, Robert's awesome. He's just so funny. He tells the best stories. And so, when you start talking to him, it's hard to be afraid of him, even with that makeup on. But I have really distinct memories of sitting in the makeup trailer right at the very beginning of like the first couple days that we started shooting the movie. And it would be like Johnny and Heather and Nick, Corey, and I just watching Robert get his makeup done, and he would tell us stories. And but there was one scene that we were doing in the boiler room, and I can't remember the order. Did we shoot location first and then the studio, or was it intermixed, or was it the studio first and then locations?
It was as close as possible to chronology.
So it was? Okay.
Yeah.
So then we filmed those boiler room scenes at a really scary prison called Lincoln Heights Jail that was, part of it had been closed down, and we were in the actual boiler room, and it just had the worst, scary, vile energy. Like, grown men literally would not, everybody was in the buddy system, because you were like, whoa, what is going on down here? And we were doing this scene where I was walking away from the boiler room, and I remember it was dark, and I was totally freaked out. And Robert jumped up as like kind of a joke to scare me behind, and I literally started crying. I screamed, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "That is," and Wes was like, "That's what I want," and I was like, "That's child abuse, people." But it was like that was the first time I was like, "Whoa," because it was the first time I'd seen him not be Robert with the makeup on. He was being Freddy, and I was like, "Ooh." So I just.
That's another great story. Oh man, wow. I didn't have a scene with Robert really, but I was with him on set and had lunch with him and was amazed at how realistic his makeup was and was disturbed. He suffered because he's very pale complexion, and it was very difficult for him to endure long days of shooting and long days of makeup, and then even the removal of the makeup. But he was so believable that it almost frightened me to have lunch with him. It was just almost frightening. And I think what he did in turning, as a Shakespearean actor, of great experience and skill, of great brilliance of mind, to turn very few lines, very few lines, into a billion-dollar franchise that has endured so that you're all here 30 years later, is remarkable. And how he turned his character, Freddy, who was a child killer, into a hero of so many of you who come just to see him and hear him speak to you and wear his tattoos. And I know kids who come to him who don't have fathers and just come to see him. So he's done a remarkable thing with this role. I don't know how he achieved it.
Jennifer, your death in Nightmare 3 is probably one of my favorite, and one of the most inventive. I was curious if you could talk a little bit about that scene with the bullets and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because you were, by the way, your costume also is so cool.
Yes, it was.
Did you keep it?
No. You know, the #1 fan of, I mean, not that you aren't all #1 fan of Nightmare on Elm Street, but the #1 fan who has the most memorabilia has that outfit. And he's the one who's responsible for that awesome picture that I signed, because he had that too, because I didn't really know. But the story that Robert told last night was about all the armholes, the little sucky holes. That wasn't what was on the wrong side of camera to shoot. That was a condom that was placed on my head, and then the juice, blood, drugs would come and explode my head, which is a little bit over the top. And thank God it was on the other like the wrong side, because maybe at that point they would pull that death scene. I'll tell you this one thing that you don't know. The little sucky mouse thing isn't my elbow, it's the back of my knee. Because they had to make a whole rig inside there with like these ring pulls to make the little mouse do the little sucky thing. So it was made this big and shot like my arm. So we'll figure out those two stories. Okay? Head no, wrong side. Sucky leg.
I'm just gonna get a t-shirt that says sucky leg on it. I think that's the greatest thing. I don't want to take up too much time because I know we don't have very much time left, and I know we have a room full of people, so if you want to raise your hand to ask some questions. Also, anybody who asks a question, find me after. I have free goodies for you, including t-shirts and fun stuff. So when you're done, find me at the end.
I am the green shirt. Yeah. You got it all worked out.
Just keep.
Jennifer, there was talk, I'm sure a lot of different fans in here, Elm Street 6, which became Freddy's Dead. The original script was called The Dream Police, where you guys would have come back as Dream Warriors in the Good Dreams. You, Joey, and Dave.
Wonderful.
And you would have helped people in that movie defeat Freddy. Did you ever hear about that, or would you have come back? Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have come back. Never heard that story before, but that's very creative and wonderful. And what you said earlier, I just want to say is that I think it's very clever when you watch the Never Sleep Again documentary about trying to, just whisk off Robert and just have anybody in the role. And I think that's a remarkable historical motion picture. They can't just, not everybody can play anybody.
As the remake taught us. I think this gentleman here had
hello, Amanda. Oh, sorry, I had such a dorky crush on you and Better Off Dead, but I'm sure this, and every nerd knows this, but I don't. How'd they do that vicious kill scene in the first Elm Street where you're thrashing around the ceiling and gourd instead of spinning room, or... well, okay, awesome.
Yes, it was a spinning room inside the soundstage, and everything was nailed down and glued down in the room, and the cameraman and Rod were harnessed into like airplane seats. So they actually spun around with the room. I was always on the floor, acting as though I was being dragged. So it was pretty, it was intense. It was a fun acting thing to do. So that's how it happened. That's the truth.
Hi, I was just wondering, Nancy's mom from the first one, how the dad was in the New Nightmare. Were you ever approached to be in a New
Who's
Nightmare?
talking?
Right over here. Were you ever approached to be in a New Nightmare like the dad was?
Well, I was asked, but I had been injured, so I wasn't able to do it, but I was asked once.
Okay.
I want it on record, nobody has ever asked me to be in any of the other movies. I was never rumored to be in a script, nothing.
Which is a huge loss for the franchise, because isn't she brilliant? She's starring in the first third of the movie. Absolutely brilliant.
Hello, this question is for all three. Other than your own, what is your favorite death in the franchise? Of any character?
I think mine is yours. Because when you're really dragged around by an evil force, there's only one other girl who's ever done that. You know what I mean? Is that kind of broke that ground.
Thank you.
I can't bear the death, and I couldn't even watch them because I'm too squeamish. So when I first went to see the movie when it was opening in Times Square, nobody was with me, but I just shut my eyes during the scary parts. And then finally, when I was with Amanda and Heather in Chicago, well, several years ago, and there was an outdoor showing, and we all sat there drinking red wine, and I was right with them. So I could finally keep my eyes open when Amanda's body bag was dragged down the school corridor and stuff like that. So I'm a person who can't even watch the deaths.
I have to say, I'm nipping at Ronnie's heels with that I've seen the other movies and I fast forward through the scary parts. So I'm sorry, because I'm a total coward. And you know what? Also, horror movies, I can't, they're not movies to me. If I watch it, it's like it's actually happening. Like, and literally, I watch Ghost Hunters on TV, and my boyfriend gets angry because I'm so scared by the time he comes home. I have every light on in the house. I like have the door barricaded. I am a total coward, so it's no joke. I can't watch it. But I like the story, but like when things get too violent and scary, it makes me cry, and I feel like, I don't know, I can't, even though I do it for a living, I can't click over that it's make-believe. It's some sort of damage in my brain.
A question for the three ladies. Well, what did you guys think of Freddy vs. Jason?
What is that?
I love Jennifer with all my heart.
Is that like the one that Hallie Joel Osment did?
No, that was,
It's a
it
real.
was the one with Monica Keena. She was in Freddy vs. Jason.
I loved it.
She's the best.
Jennifer, can you talk about, as a person, what it was like working with Richard Lynch on Bad Dreams?
As a person.
I don't know how else you would answer the question.
God bless his soul. May he rest in peace. He's awesome. Difference between Richard Lynch and Freddy Krueger. Not too different in a way. You know, they're both profoundly historical men for different reasons. I respect him, and he was an okay saxophone player, which he played in the between our scenes. So, God, you know, good job, good enough.
Over here.
This is for all three of you. What was your favorite way of finishing off Freddy?
I didn't really finish him off, but I really did stab him in that fight scene. And I felt so sad, like, what is it, like when you feel bad, you did something you shouldn't have done? Yeah. I shouldn't have really stuck him, but he was attacking me. So I got him back, and I got the knife right in his armpit. And then we kind of had like a take it serious break, because that's a serious non-horror movie. So.
Clearly you could not shank your co-stars.
Don't shake your ghost up. You're not supposed to touch him really, really, really.
Mine would be that Marge says that she did kill him by setting a fire to him. So that would be Marge's favorite. That's my favorite.
Well, obviously, I feel like on the spot, because I want to, there's so many amazing ways people went after Freddy in all the movies, and my mind just drew a blank, and obviously, I spent the whole movie running from him. But in a way, I just want to defend my cowardice. Because I feel like Tina realized like that she didn't have it in her. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, she turned around and she tried to fight him, but she wasn't wily like Nancy. Yeah, like I kept escaping him and escaping him, but I didn't turn around to fight him. Yay, Monica!
We have Monica!
Yay, Monica!
I just, since I was the last one, I thought I should really be the last one. So. Thanks.
We were just talking about Freddy versus Jason.
Oh, what about?
We were just talking about who liked it, and we like you.
Oh, I like you too. People think we're like the same person a lot of the time.
People were tweeting on, well, she doesn't do Twitter, but they were like, Amanda Lewis is eating pizza in the thing, and I was like,
It was me. Who
I know, and she was eating pizza, and she walked by with pizza, and I was like, I wasn't eating pizza.
I know. She was like, "Did you just tweet that you were eating pizza?" And I was like, "No, I don't even tweet or twit or whatever." I said it was a compliment.
I think we have one over here.
Hi. This is for all four of you. All your other work aside, what is it like being part of the Elm Street legacy?
I'll go. You know what? It's overwhelming sometimes, and it was unexpected, and I'm very grateful. And I had no idea I was going to be a part of this long-standing movie history, and so I feel it's like I said, it was unexpected, and I get overwhelmed by it, and I'm so grateful for it. And you know, the older I get, especially, I'm proud that I was a part of something that has become like a legacy.
Yeah, exactly. I would say the same thing. You know, it's quite an honor to be a part of something that people come out to see you in and to pay hard-earned cash for your autograph. It's really an honor. And so it's also fun for me personally to see my co-stars and hang out together. I look forward to it very much, just to see each other, go out to dinner, have a drink. It's just really wonderful, and it's great to be part of something that is being remembered. There's something about it that's gratifying to the artistic personality as well as, I'm sure, to the ego a little bit. It's just wonderful, and I still enjoy seeing the movie. I think it has depth and obviously longevity, but I still do enjoy seeing it. And I think the performances by each person are just incredible.
Actually, yeah, going along the same lines. Jennifer actually said something. We all sort of flew in together the other day, and you were talking about the Never Sleep Again documentary, and you mentioned that Nightmare on Elm Street is so much about the characters, and which I completely agree with. So it really is an honor to be with such wonderful people that I've been fans of, and now I get to call friends. And it's overwhelming and wonderful, and just they're such characters, and now they'll be, immortalized.
That's great. That's great to say, because that's what I meant. It's like when you watch the documentary of Nightmare on Elm Street, it really truly is about building a character. Freddy is a character. And if you go and you look at, I don't know if it's Halloween, or don't quote me, if it's Halloween or Jason.
You said
But
Halloween.
I said Halloween. It's Halloween. Halloween's documentary was about branding. That was another moment in history, cinematic.